Hello, guys, and welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Now, as we said on our live last night, now this is a pre-record, I should warn, but we've got a lot of great content coming this week. And tonight, me and Yas are going to look at the Joyce versus Joseph Parker card. Now, I did say on our live, and I stand by it. Certainly for a Frank Warren card, this is possibly the best he's done in recent memory. Definitely his best one of this year for me. So let's not waste any time, Yas. Let's get straight into it. Joyce versus Joseph Parker. How do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, this for me, this is one of Frank Warren's better shows. This the battle of the two Joes. And fair play to BT and Boxer and Sky for coming together to put on this because there's a lot of politics going on with boxing. Certain promoters don't work with each other and whatnot. But let's get straight to the point. This is for me, it's a 50-50 fight. It's two guys who, for me, they're sitting just below that elite level kind of guys. It's kind of like they're waiting for a shot at one of the big guys. And we know Joseph Parker is a former world champion, and Joyce is obviously the Olympic silver medalist. Parker's obviously had two losses at the big stage. And what's it called? Joyce, he's unbeaten. He's a tough guy. He's durable. He's quite, in my opinion, he's quite avoided. But the way that I see this fight going is it can go either way. I feel like if Parker can implement a good game plan, I feel like he could come out on top. But I feel like he needs to be switched on at all times, and he can't start slow. He's got to have a good start. And also Joyce, we've seen that he's had the fight with Daniel Dubois, and he's been in there and he's been able to withstand everything that Dubois threw at him. He was able to take on, and he was able to come through that. So Joyce's his chin is hot, is solid, and for me, I just feel like although he's got a solid chin and he's hard to beat and all that kind of stuff, I feel like I see Parker winning this fight. Purely because he's been there on the big stages. He's a former world champion. I feel like he would have learned from them two losses against AJ and Dillian White. So I feel like, and also ever since his link up with Andy Lee, I've kind of seen the improvements in him. So I see him winning this fight on points.
No, definitely. I was just about to say that because I think that's something that Joseph Parker's been accused of throughout his career, isn't it? Starting slower and potentially giving himself a little bit of a job to do at times to catch back up as fights wear on. But I think certainly we saw it. We saw very, very subtle signs, but it was an underwhelming Joseph Parker performance in the first Derek Chisora fight. He had only had 6 weeks with Andy Lee at that point. I think the second Chisora fight, and I always think Derek Chisora is a good sort of barometer for how well he's improved because he fights the same way regardless. And what we saw was a much improved Joseph Parker across the 12 rounds as well. He did start faster. Obviously, I know you've just gone for Parker there on points, but I just want to give a little shout out and get your thoughts on Andy Lee as a trainer because he's an ex-world champion, WBO middleweight champion, and he's a young trainer. But I have to admit, from what we've seen of him so far, and you hear his commentary on DAZN a lot, I think he's really got a serious future in the game because after one short and one full camp with Joseph Parker, there's clear improvements. And personally, I think I agree with you. Parker will win this fight. I'm hoping anyway. And for me, it's just as simple as, you're probably saying Daniel Dubois is Joyce's biggest win as a professional. And who's Dubois really fought? To give us that measure, he hasn't. So there's only so long I think that you can use your face as your defense. And at some point, Joyce, that is going to get him found out. He's 37 now, just turned. And I think at some point you're going to get caught out with that. Joseph Parker's in there. As you said, losses to Joshua, losses to Dillian White. But he's still been in there. Andy Ruiz, he won that fight. Although hotly contested, Hughie Fury, he's been in there with the much more seasoned opposition. And I think that and Andy Lee will be the difference on Saturday night. But what are your thoughts on Andy Lee? Yes.
Yeah, I'll rate him, and for because the way Parker used to fight under his previous trainer. I think was it Higgins or something like that.
No, that's his promoter. It was Kevin Barry.
Kevin Barry, sorry, that's the one. Yeah. So the way he used to fight under this, like he just didn't have. I feel like Andy Lee's starting to get him to believe in himself a bit more and bring out more spite, and we saw that in the recent fight with Chisora, the second one. After we saw he looked quite sharp in there. Obviously, Chisora has not got the same chin as Joyce, but he was able to put him down. And Chisora is not known as someone who gets put down quite easily. And so I rate Andy. I rate the changes that Andy Lee's made. He's a smart guy. He's obviously been working. He's obviously been involved in the Fury camp as well. So he would have picked up good pointers from Sugar Hill, etc. So I really think he has got a bright future. And obviously, as a pro, he's been there, done it. He's been there, and he's been to the places where Joseph Parker is trying to get back to. So I rate him. He's a cool, level-headed guy as well, and I see him, being quite a good fit for Parker.
No, definitely. So, I mean, guys, let us know in the comments section what your predictions are for this one. And I will just say, I'm hoping as much as I think Parker will win. I am a Parker fan, but I can definitely see a case for Joe Joyce if he gets that jab working. But we'll move on because we've got a beast of a chief support, haven't we, here? And there's lots of dimensions to it. With Jake Paul comes that whole traveling salesman and mouthpiece with his platforms across social media. But we're getting Amanda Serrano versus Sarah Mahfoud it's another unification bout, isn't it, Yas? Just give me a little bit of background on this and give the viewers how you think the fight plays out and prediction.
Yeah, well, as we know, Amanda Serrano was involved in that, amazing fight with Katie Taylor last time around at the Sold Out MSG a few months ago, and she came up short on a split decision loss. What's it called? And we know Katie Taylor is pretty much, she's in everyone's top 2 pound for pound women list. So, this is the caliber of opponent that you're dealing with. Whereas Mahfoud, in my opinion, she for me, the only notable win that I could really take note of was against Nina Menke, who fought, what's her name, Katie Taylor about 5 years ago on the AJ Klitschko undercard. And Katie Taylor dealt with her. So, I don't really take too much away from that. And also, this is a special fight because it's both of their first time in the UK for both of them. What's her name? Mahfoud has only fought in Denmark. This is her first time, out of Denmark. So we'll see how she's going to perform as the away fighter. And but for me, I just feel like Serrano has skills. She's got a good defense. She's had over 40 fights, whereas Mahfoud's only had like 11 fights, I believe. Mahfoud's not the biggest puncher as well for me. And I see, for me, it's not a case of if Amanda Serrano will win this. It's a case of how she wins. Will she win by, points, like just a complete domination, a dominant performance, or is she going to stop her?
See, now for me, I'd agree with everything you've said, in all fairness, but I am backing Amanda Serrano for the reasons you said. Mahfoud's never really been, she's not well travelled in any way, shape, or form. And I think it comes back to, we sound like a bit of a broken record, but we're not the only channel that does. There is a lack of strength in depth in women's boxing, and that is improving. So I'm not knocking women's boxing in any way, shape, or form. It just takes time. We've got this generation of torchbearers, if you like, and it's getting women into the sport, but it takes time to develop talent. But I think, Amanda Serrano, she knows how to get a stoppage. Oh, excuse me. And I think she'll get that stoppage this weekend. Excuse me. Do you think Jake Paul being in the UK adds anything, or not, as the case may be?
Of course, it's Jake Paul being here, being in the UK is obviously going to boost it up because I've watched the face to faces of Joyce and Parker, and they're both nice guys. They're not guys that can really sell a fight through hype and all that kind of. It's not in their personality. But when you have someone like Jake Paul, he's gonna obviously bring a different kind of with the way he pushes it, and he makes sure that the boxers that he gets involved with, whether they're at a low level or high level, are getting paid well. He's going to obviously do his bit to push this up and promote it so we'll get more bums on seats.
Are you hoping for a little bit of interaction potentially with Tommy Fury?
I hope so, because that's the fight that we've been they've been telling us that we're going to see. It's been cancelled like twice now. So I hope finally Jake Paul could, because let's be real, if Jake Paul were to come, that fight sells out in the US or here. If Jake Paul were to come here, that fight could sell out an arena easy if he was to go. But I feel like it's about time they put this story to bed once for all. I feel like if Tommy Fury's there, Jake Paul should, say to him, listen, let's get this on, and they need to come to an agreement and make this fight on.
No, I agree. I mean, it's probably one of the most talked about fights in the last couple of years to have not happened. Obviously, the various announcements and various cancellations for different reasons. Now, as we said, we're not necessarily used to Frank Warren giving us good cards top to bottom, but he has done this weekend. Now, I just want to get your thoughts on, obviously, British title fight, Echo Esteman and Samuel Antwi. Now, Esteman's got a big reputation, hasn't he? Obviously, we saw him beat Chris Jenkins, who we've been lucky enough to have on the channel, in style. And Jenkins has since gone on to still cause issues for different characters around the welterweight division. So Esteman, you'd like to say, is going to go on to big things. But Antwi's no mug at all, far from it, isn't he?
Yeah. Antwi, what is he? Former English champion. So this is going to be quite a good fight. I think we're going to see Esteman defend his British titles for the third time now. So I feel like it's going to be a good fight, and depending on how it goes, if Esteman can get through him unscathed, I feel like he'll probably be ready to move on to European honors maybe.
No, definitely. I was going to say that myself. I think it's this needs to be the last one for Esteman at British level for me. I think he's at that point where, and I know why people stick around. There's potential grudge matches there with other British welterweights. It's quite a lively division, but I think you run the risk of him potentially getting stale and not really making that kick on. And then when they do make the kick on, sometimes they don't get to, do they? Because they get sort of caught flat-footed or whatever. But no, I'm excited about that fight. And another fight I'm excited about, Nathan Heaney. Now, he's from Stoke, which isn't too far away from where I'm based at all. And he's a real fan favourite. He's a big ticket seller. And he's taking on Jack Flatley. Now, obviously, the Stoke to Manchester's not too far, but he you look at his social media, he's taking an army of fans with him from Stoke. Are you a fan of Nathan Heaney? Yes?
Yeah. I like him. I feel like he's on quite a good trajectory right now, and he's really fighting his way onto like a major title. He recently won the IBO belt with a stoppage win and against an experienced fighter. And I feel like, depending on how he gets on, how is he going to get on this weekend? And I feel like for him, it's another, like you said, he's quite popular as a ticket seller. We'll see how he gets on, and then hopefully he can move on as well to the next stage of his career.
No, definitely. I think it's not sold out. There's still a fair few tickets available, in fairness, to the show. But, Nathan's going to have his fans there with him. I think they're going to drive him on to a good win on Saturday night. We'll wrap this one up there, guys. So thank you for joining us. And we've got a lot more great content coming, as I keep saying. We've got a few interviews coming up. To check out, well, it'll be Wednesday. We've got Ray's first Ghanaian interview with John Zeal. That is a big one. It's very good. Check that out. And also, Saturday night, obviously, we were going to do our live watch-along, which we haven't done for a little bit. However, there's 2 cards on, obviously, with this card and the DAZN card. So what we're actually going to be doing, guys, is going straight live at the final bell, and we're going to do a live reaction to both cards. So don't forget to join us for that. We want your guys' involvements. And hit the like button if you haven't. Hit that subscribe button and join us on the next one.